Hello, this is the March 11th, 2025 open public meeting of the Needham Library Board of Trustees, being held via hybrid format, allowing remote attendance. First, I will take a roll call to confirm that trustees, library staff, and persons anticipated to be on the agenda are present and can hear me. So, starting with the trustees, Kay Cahill.
Here.
Rob Pettit.
Here.
Jay Fialka.
Here.
Michael O'Neill.
Here.
Megan Small. Joshua Small.
Here.
And the chair, Erhard Grafe, is here. Library staff, Library Director Ron McLean.
Here.
Assistant Director Diane Fendler. Here. Will she be attending these?
On a needed basis.
Okay. Administrative Specialist Jenna White.
Here.
Program Specialist Gail Dennett.
Here.
And Recording Secretary Faith Kristen.
Here.
Do we have a representative from the Library Foundation Needham this evening joining us? No, we do not. This meeting is being recorded. If there is a problem that prevents the completion of this meeting, we will reconvene at 7 p.m. on April 9th, 2025. I hereby call this meeting of the Needham Board of Library Trustees to order at 7:03 p.m.
Megan Small. So.
Megan Small, yes, is here. So let's mark her as in attendance. Reminder about public comments. Citizens are welcome to speak for up to 3 minutes each, not to exceed a total of 10 minutes. Citizens are encouraged to inform the library director in advance of their intention to speak. Those who provide advance notice will be called upon first. While the board will take public comments under advisement, there may be no opportunity for discussion or debate during this portion of the meeting. Do we have anyone from the public here to make comments? Okay. Moving on then to minutes. I request a motion to approve the minutes of the February 11th, 2025 meeting, and then we can decide.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
All right. Looking at the minutes, any points? Yes.
Just for the trustees present, I was there.
Good note. Other notes? I found one tiny typo. Sorry, Jay, I just saw you. Do you want to go?
I also just found just a couple of very small typos.
Okay.
The reference to in number 5, I think the select board, they basically usually write it as 2 words, select board, 2 separate words is how they refer to themselves. And a small thing in number 9, I think they refer to it as the book sale instead of the book sale, but I don't care.
The one that I found was under number 5, new business, the last section of that on page 2, library policy review. The second sentence, discussion included terms, just pluralized term used as a caregiver. Any other notes on the minutes? All right, Jay, with you remote, we'll do a roll call vote.
Sorry.
To approve minutes. No, hey, it's fine. Happy to do it. So we'll start with Kay Cahill.
Yes, aye.
Rob Pettit.
Aye.
Jay Fialkoff.
Aye.
Michael O'Neill.
Aye.
Megan Small.
Aye.
Joshua Small.
Aye.
And the chair is aye. So minutes are good to go. Thank you. Moving then to the director's report, Rob.
Thank you. Highlights of the highlights. The children's department in last month had continues having great attendance for its programs. February Vacation Week is always an important time for the library to be there for the community and those who are enjoying a staycation and de-stressing from studying so hard. So for Hugh Hanley, who is a local children's department rock star in the region, we had 140 people in attendance, and
Wow.
David's own Evan, with music at the Blissful, 145. So that's great. Some information about Lucia and the work that she's doing with some high schoolers across the street to bring programming to kids about STEM issues, which is great, but it's also fantastic that kids are seeing slightly older kids teaching them things and being here at the library. So really happy about that relationship. And I just want to note on Wendy's Valentine Craft Project, which was a big hit. So 52 kids went home with a nice Valentine gift for the parents, or maybe a sibling they get.
Was that a remote or was that a in-person?
In person.
Nice.
Technical Services Department, they're chugging along with heavy weeding and shifting, retailing, relabeling, and just the last bullet, I just want to note, in February, they added over 1,000 items to the collection, which is a huge number. It's the largest number since Tamara's joined us as the Technical Services Supervisor. In addition, they weeded quite a bit in the month of February. So that is in preparation for phase 1 and just catching up on some weeding that we haven't done in a bit. Technology Archives, Danielle, the superhero department of 1, continues to knock it out of the park. Here's lots of specific technical things, which I hope, Jay, maybe you don't ask me questions about. But I'll note, Danielle did visit the Canton Public Library. They have MeScan for their self-checkout, which is something we'll be introducing this spring here at the Needham Free Public Library by local polls and then with children's to see how that goes. There was a sleeker version than what we have now, and uses iPad and will coordinate nicely with the phases as they move to apply.
I just want to say thank you for, even though a lot of what Danielle does is very technical and her department, it's helpful, at least for me, to see what those things are that basically are the backbone of keeping the library up and running. And so we appreciate your delineating those.
Yeah, there's a lot of hardware and software in this building,
Yeah.
so it is a lot of constant work and planning. Sometimes out of the blue planning with updates or updates that go sideways or even worse, and nudging people and getting projects done. So she does a great job. And on top of that, she's all the way back into the 19th century with our archives and digitizing that. So that I feel I mentioned this before, maybe it was in an email or something when it happened, but the APL finished digitizing our collection of the annual reports for the town of Needham, or that the town of Needham published. It's our collection. So those are up on in our archive and are searchable thanks to the optical character recognition software that was applied. So that's great. And we have a couple more collections on deck to be digitized by APL when it's our turn again. They don't accept bribes, so we have to wait. Then I just want to, Danielle's working hard to upgrade all the public computers to Windows 11 and troubleshooting errors preventing it. It's taking more time than planned because, as she notes here, just a white each public computer verify the hardware health, install Windows 11, and then reinstall appropriate public software. So it's needed work, but it's just taking a little bit longer than we had. Moving on to reference department. First bullet is great bit of information to share. We're saving money, but we're maintaining access to the most used databases that we subscribe to from Newsbank. We have, if you're unfamiliar with these companies, they sort of tell you can't purchase a la carte, that in order to get this, well, you've got to purchase this thing you don't want, but I got you a big discount for it, so you should be happy. So Liam, our new reference supervisor, was able to negotiate in a way that let them know that's not how we operate, and we only want to pay for what our patrons need and want based on the data that we have are seeing. So we're able to save $4,500, and things that we did not renew aren't used. So
yeah,
that's good news. And that's why we put that money into other parts of the collection where desperately need more. So that was great. On the third bullet, every time this year, we become like a new IRS office, or every public library in the state or the country becomes a place where people who are still filing their taxes by paper go to get all the booklets and forms they need. And, we're happy to provide all that information, but we do not provide any guidance on taxes. That's keeping us busy. The next bullet there, we were partnered with the Needham Public Schools in the community writing contest that occurred in January, and we hosted the award ceremony here. Never put that all together, and we had 90 people show up, and friends paid for all of the awards that were passed out. So that was a nice. That was the third annual writing contest. So it's a great partnership that Aaron has created for us. Under circulation, so you can now go to Plymouth Patuxent cheaper than you could last year because we've got a discounted admission pass part of our collection. And this one is a really good discount. I forget the specifics, but I think for an adult normal admission is like $46, and you're going to pay in the 20s now, like $24, $26. There's a similar big discount for children's admission. So we're really excited with the beginning of the 250th anniversary of Revolution that there might be renewed interest in even our earlier history here. And so we've started to market that and let people know that that has joined our stable of 20 other museum passes. So whether the economy is great or might be tanking, we have people covered if they want to save some money and
Get away from it all.
yeah, get away from it all, but you know, enjoy fantastic cultural institutions, museums that are right here in the back there. Personnel. So we are reposting the part-time circulation assistant position that we interviewed for. So we offered the job to the top 2 candidates who both declined. So
Did you say anything about that?
no, because we didn't throw. We didn't throw this.
Okay, all right.
They didn't.
You don't have to
provide
say
information.
Okay.
So, so that we posted this week by HR. That's a part-time position. It's 12 or 15 hours a week. So we thank our circulation staff for helping out to cover those hours when we do that. And just a note here, a week from this Friday, we're having the library will be closed because we're having a staff development day. So this is part of the schedule the trustees approved for closures early last fall, in September. So this will be the second since I joined, and Dinah's led a team of staff and developed the agenda for this day. Really excited. It includes plenty of time for department meetings, as well as all staff are going to be on deck for reading the collection. So we're going to be reading and shelf reading and all getting in there and helping out this huge project that needs to be done before we start the construction project, hopefully in September. And then some early February on, Jackie and I went to Wingate Residences again to talk with the library, sign people up for library cards, promote our digital collections. This was at the assisted living section of Wingate, and it was great. Good time, one-on-one time to speak with all the people who were in their movie theater, which is really tricked out. Very nice movie theater. Maybe we can fit one of those here in one of our phases, but maybe not. Then at the end of February, Ian Needham had an offer event here. just a new book, Bittersweetness and Light. So we had a very engaged but small crowd, 17 people show up. But Ian was a great speaker. Kay was here. She
She was
presented really
delightful, yeah.
well, very well prepared.
Very
She's-
positive message for times
Yes.
when there's some uncertainty. But
Yeah, and she said she's serious about the business of joy.
yes,
You know,
she's serious
so
about
she's-
joy. Yes.
Yeah, so it was a really great message, and
Yes.
it was fun. So she's our poet laureate, as you may remember, and we continue to work with her to bring her all over Needham to love poetry. The last thing here, Diana, I met with Bert Guess. He is with Racial Equity Group out of Texas. So the town of Needham has hired them to work with departments on DIJB issues. And so this is a kickoff meeting at the departmental level here. So we look forward to working with Bert as he gives us support as we continue the work that staff and the trustees find very important. So phase one, so dun, 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 dun. I'll just start with what do they say in journalism? Don't bury the lead.
Don't bury
So,
the lead,
all
right?
If it bleeds, it bleeds.
Sorry about that. Don't go there. But, it's a real thing. The bid documents were published last Thursday. This, as well as the plans here, are what contractors and subcontractors are reading right now. There's already been downloads of it. So we're really excited. The bids from subcontractors are due on April 3rd and April 17th. They're due from the general contractors. Before then, on Thursday, March 20th in the morning, there'll be a voluntary walkthrough of the space with Nicole and myself to show them where the work will happen. If out of that walkthrough, questions come up, they'll submit questions and Nicole and Hank will answer them, and then the addendum will be submitted to everybody interested. So everybody gets the answers to all the questions that are asked. So it's happening, and in memo that Hank developed that Gerhard shared yesterday, there's a short schedule here that also notes that on April 29th, when the PPC meets, they will pre-approve the awarding of the contract based on anticipated approval at the annual town meeting in May, so that when that occurs in May, we can move forward and award contracts as quickly as possible, not have to wait for another meeting.
So just so I understand, so at April 29th, they're going to choose which contractor they prefer, assuming town meeting.
Yes. Yep. Yep. So the lowest qualified bid will be awarded at the subcontract level.
Rob, so thank you for the update. I noticed in the report that there were just some minor value engineering items. I was just curious, was it kind of the materials or features?
Yeah. One of them was there's emergency lighting in the new team room. The value engineering there is we went with emergency lighting that is less aesthetically pleasing, but is about $1,000 cheaper. Wow. So what we had gone with, and we had light if we had the money, was something that was more streamlined and nice to look at. So it still works. It's just a small thing. The other one, I'm emailing everybody about everything. There's just two things, and they were both acceptable. Didn't really impact.
Or it doesn't impact the function at all?
Yeah, it's just Brett and Nicole. Yeah, it's a little unclear than what we had. I shouldn't say ugly, but not as pretty. But for that kind of savings, it's okay.
And I should say during the PVC meeting yesterday, two things came up with regard to anticipating if bids are too high, like if bids are beyond the budget for the warrant article, because we can't adjust the warrant article up.
Right.
So we have to adjust the design down to meet it in those circumstances. And so the UTIL is preparing two alternative designs that would reduce those costs in the event that those bids come in too high. And so the first of those would be switching out the built-in banquette seatings along the wall and replacing that with furniture, which would greatly reduce the cost there. And then the second was the ceiling.
Yeah, replacing in the lounge area, the craft lounge area, not a wood ceiling, but a tectum base one.
What they,
Tectum.
some kind of synthetic.
ceiling.
Yeah, so like a synthetic
So-
material as opposed to installed wood.
Oh, I see.
So that,
That's the second one they're putting it.
and so that's the order that they would happen if we were to have to create fallback designs with bids too high.
And like the other ones, the function is still preserved.
That's
It's
right.
just a matter of different materials.
That's right.
But these other two have happened. Hopefully these two don't have to.
No, I see. Lighting has happened. Yeah.
Is there a safeguard? I think budgetarily, we have a safeguard if, given the framework of our government and now materials might cost more, just making sure it doesn't impact, but I think we had something in place. I was talking to somebody and they asked me about it. So I do believe we have cushion.
And there's a 15% cushion,
Yes,
which is standard across projects.
and it's $273,000 in this project, which is a nice amount. And he feels confident that whether prices increase because of tariffs or other issues, that will be able to handle it.
Yeah, we were also,
Won't, no,
but we were also talking about those details a little bit that came up in questions from the PVC. They were asking about potential impacts on tariffs for the cost of materials.
Right.
And they said, one of the things that that construction projects would be most sensitive to right now with the tariffs with, for instance, Canada around steel would be if we had structural steel components. But we don't actually have any structural steel in this. We're using the existing building.
Right.
And so we have very minimal exposure to the cost of metal that we will be working with, which is good.
It's not like we're framing the whole thing.
Exactly.
That would be a whole different thing.
I think also did express that the uncertainty in the economy may invite more bids than if not, because some contractors, subcontractors may worry about the availability of private sector projects in the fall. They want to get in on this if they can, so it could work to the project's advantage.
Silver lining.
But it's all projection.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't know.
We'll find out, but it's out there now, right?
It's out
So bids are maybe even coming in already.
Thanks.
On April 7th, Monday, April 7th, that afternoon, library staff were going to UTL's Boston headquarters to look at a wide selection of materials for furnishing. So we're going on field trip,
Oh, neat.
so that'll be fun. And we continue to work with staff to talk about a timeline and a communication plan. So, communication plan for staff internally and also with patrons and residents about the project. So that work continues. We're going to do an inventory of the furniture that will be impacted on the second floor and where it will go and what's not needed. And working to make sure that we have enough seats for our patrons during construction. So the weaving and the shifting and all these, it's like dominoes. concealer, so working on all that.
We can use our new lawn sign policy to advertise.
May I just say too, I hope that the adults who use the space upstairs are, will be protected and be provided with a good space to be while all this is going on. I know it's to benefit the teens, but we do want to keep our eye out on our adult patrons and make sure that they're comfortable and
We're gonna do all that we can, and like, the beginning of that is to communicate and do as much information as early as we can with all of our patrons, but we'll do our best.
yes, right, I agree. It's
But
construction.
it's, but we're thinking through all, we'll be developing health safety guidelines for our staff and patrons, and we can talk, and Daniel's already talking about dust and our hardware up there. And, making sure that's protected. Lot going on behind the scenes.
Yes.
Building and
Did you have another question about?
I just had a question on the construction. Are they doing it mostly during the day, or are there times that they will go into the evening? Is that just,
No, we'll start at 7 a.m. So we'll start before the library opens. We will end around 3 p.m. Which is nice, a little after high school gets out. So that's a normal construction schedule, which works nicely with our hours of operation as well as it could. Sure.
Good.
So we may see some of our patrons shifting their visits more to weekend or late afternoon. Some building grounds issues. So the air filters in the building are going to be changed in the coming weeks by the end of this month. April, the spring cleaning projects will begin. And Angel met with Debbie Queenan, along with representatives from ACON. So we have the water heaters here. They're too new to be part of this program to put in energy efficient ones. So but it was nice. Gabby has been a great partner. She works for building department and is a sustainability manager and always has us in her thoughts and helping us out. You may remember we were talking earlier or last year about an EV charging station here at the library. We're sort of been pushed down. We're still on the list, but one of the schools in Nina Mitchell or Paul, I forgot. Newman, okay, sorry. Is moving forward with purchasing an electric bus, so they're going to get an EV station short with this grant money first. But we're still on the list if more grant funding comes. So that's not happening here yet. But for a good reason. Yeah. Financial reports, the operating budget handout. So I just want to mention everything is on track as well as it could be. We will be turning back salary monies this fiscal year because of all the openings we've had. Expenses are where they should be. A lot of that money is spent at the end of the fiscal year, so don't be worried about only 13% balance left. The books, periodicals, audiovisual, and databases, our collection spending is not where it should be, but Liam and Diana are now part of our team, and they are selectors now, so we'll be using that spending. Make sure that that all done before June.
The goal is to spend close to 100% and not have to turn it back to the town, right? So we don't spend,
Well-
it goes back to the town, right?
Whatever's not spent goes to the town and goes into the free cash.
Yeah.
Certified free cash for the next year. But this is money that we need to make the library the best it can, so we don't look to waste money in order not to return it.
Oh, I see.
Spend money because we need to, we need best collection anyways, or we don't want our patrons to wait weeks and weeks and weeks, so we buy extra copies of things. So our spending is responsible, but the budget is based on what our needs are. But I think that is something one might hear about, like, don't turn money back,
One does hear that.
but
I hear what you're
that's
saying.
not
That's not
like
the goal.
what,
It's not
yeah.
how we spend. That's good.
With some of the salaries coming back just based on the fact of the timing of hires.
Right,
Yeah.
like, Dimitri left in June.
Right.
Diana started in January, so there you have half a year of his salary that is just there, right? Allison left in August and Liam started in January, so there's 4 months, right, where, just can't.
So basic, there's just a basic histogram of why that if that had to be returned, it wasn't because of somebody not doing the right thing. It's just based on the fact that vacancy, and, when people.
Yeah, a tough labor market for people hiring.
Yes.
Yeah, so, and part of the budget process is to explain what happened last year. So we will explain any return over 3% needs to be explained, and so that's part of what we tell town hall.
And we previewed some of that when you met with FinCom for the budget request for next fiscal year.
Yeah, so operating money doesn't roll over, like trust fund money or library state aid. If July 1st, we've no longer have access to it unless we've encumbered something and the invoice, it's in the mail and it's going to come on July 1st or 2nd. State aid expenditures, they're listed here. We got 2 for the past month. So I just want to note on the handout, FY25 receipts of just over $39,000 represents the first half of our payment. The second half of our payment should arrive probably before the April trustees meeting at the end of March or beginning of April, which will be a similar amount. Our total amount is $78,000 for this fiscal year. The most typically we've ever received from the state, which is great. Once we do have that full complement of our library state aid, we'll look to bring an FY26 library state aid spending plan to the trustees in April. It's April or May.
April's fine. Okay. I got left it up
I
to
think
you.
we should have that money.
Yeah.
So we have, so that'll be an interesting plan for us to talk about and figure out, because on the encumbrances for this year, haven't had to dip into library salaries.
Right.
So that money will still be available. Haven't touched the emergency contingency for phase 1. So it'll be interesting spending plan for FY26 that we'll see in it.
I would encourage you and the staff to think creatively about patron services that you might provide experimentally or temporarily during the phase 1 construction. Like, so kind of extending certain ways to access the collection or to outreach to the community when folks may not be coming in at the usual times or accessing materials in the usual ways. So we might, in the way that we use this for kind of experimental projects, think about how we could encumber for that.
And just since we're making suggestions, I've always thought that, and maybe you do this more than I realize, but the instructions on how we have all these wonderful databases, and I don't know if you do it in the form of classes or individual, but kind of spreading the word a bit more with sessions on how to take the deep dive and find the information as opposed to just people just Googling everything all the time. There's real information out there.
So I didn't pay you, right? I didn't pay you to say that.
Yeah, right. You didn't
So Jackie Bateman, who's our representative and digital media specialist, is developing small tech classes, so that she'll be offering that
Oh.
will address not just our databases and our digital resources, but how to download Libby on your Kindle, which is a bear, or basic tech classes.
Yeah,
you know, how to
How
operate
to
a mouse or
take
a keyboard.
advantage of what the library has to offer. There's so many different
Right,
things, right?
right. So, yeah, to offer the our reference app deal with a lot of one-on-one questions that are time consuming. It's what we do and it's fine, but if we get a group in a small classroom setting and teach them all at once, that'd be a great
Yeah.
service for them and for our staff. Yeah,
Great,
that would
good
be
news.
part of it.
Kind
Because
of
we
like,
have great databases.
I might come.
it's kind of like when you go into an Apple store,
They have those little class, Apple
they have
classes.
the Apple classes, just so that way people would know that, hey, if I don't know how to do this, sign up for it based on. Saying just do some of the other services. And cut it back a little bit.
It's a great way for our staff to share their knowledge. And we pay them anyway, so it's great, no program cost there. So, it's library state aid. There's a note here that being librarians, we love to include, thank Jenna for this, that we did return $11 that was unused for staff efficiency. So that's good. We're trying to do that.
Thanks.
Every dollar counts.
They were more efficient than we expected.
Yes.
Right.
Trust fund expenditures. So that report is here, and we're still finishing up. These expenses are from the last calendar year. So moving forward, the plan that the trustees just approved in February is what will be spending. So that's what this the note. The ID staff efforts are listed here. Programming materials purchased. Just to give you a note, we're talking with the supervisors of the chart that we always include that of the occurrences of these important issues in the new items that we purchased. This is accurate, and what may not have been completely accurate was the individual department was purchased numbers, which may not be necessary because we have this chart, which is for the new materials purchased in February.
Okay.
So we're reading on that. So that's why you don't see one for the reference department listed, because we're in the middle of this conversation about not presenting conflicting information.
Appreciate that.
And this is statistical report. Well, the other report you can see from technical services, the new items added to the collection in February, just under 1,200, and then we continue to get some good work done with some help from people from the circulation department for reading. Our regular staff. So those numbers here. On the statistics report for January, I just want to note a couple of interesting numbers here. The downloadable audio, the downloadable video, and the downloadable magazines and comics. The FY cumulative numbers are nice high positive numbers overall, which typically is just fantastic, great positive news. But for these rate increases, they're sort of tied to the super hyper success of Hoopla, which is a pay by circ service. So increased usage means bigger bills.
Sure.
And so we are on track to overspend for Hoopla what we had planned on. So There is the news bank savings we talked about earlier, so we'll be looking to use some of that savings to not have to put a limit on Hoopla in this fiscal year, and that could be changing the monthly checkout limit from 9 to 8, or that could be instituting a monthly spending limit to get us back on track. At some of that savings to carry us forward through June 30th, but as we plan for FY26 Hoopla spending, we might have to do one or more things to control the spending.
And Hoopla is every time someone downloads something, the same item, like Cars, the movie or something like that. Every time someone downloads Cars, we repay for it,
Yes.
as opposed to a physical copy of the DVD, which you buy once. And
Right. Yeah. So cost could be as low as 49 cents or as much as $3.99 or $4.99 per checkout, depending on what it is.
And is a lot of what's on Hoopla also available through Libby, or am I mistaken?
The content.
Just free.
So
Libby's
this is
free, of course,
complicated.
right?
So I'll just talk about audio
Okay.
books.
I
So
can actually sort of answer that. There are far more audiobooks on Hoopla than there are on Libby when it comes to bestsellers and the like. The difference is that with Libby, you're on a reserve list if it's something very popular.
Yeah.
If you get it from Hoopla, you get it immediately.
Oh.
And it's the instantaneous transaction that people are looking for, especially if it's for a book club or something like that. So that is what the difference is between the two, which is why Hoopla has a hell of a lot more audiobooks that get checked out for us than Libby does, because you've got to wait.
And you don't have to wait. Okay.
No wait.
That's the
you
key.
just
No
won't
waiting.
find James by Percival as an audiobook on Hoopla. So you'll have to go into Libby and get on the wait list.
Yeah.
But there's tens of thousands of other audiobooks in Hoopla, so you'll find something. You'll check it out. Audiobook is the highest use in Hoopla. But the popular, it's not as popular as what you find.
so, I'm sorry.
It's getting better.
So there's a difference. Downloadable books is separate from downloadable audio. Is downloadable books physical, like you're reading it on your Kindle?
You can get both. with-
Well, they're separated down to two different statistical
Yes,
categories.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, downloadable books are the ebooks.
Or ebooks, okay.
Downloadable audios.
Audio.
Or audio.
Hoopla doesn't work with Kindle,
Well,
so there's that too, like it's a different app delivery
Right.
system, and I've heard from some people that they prefer the Kindle opportunity, the Kindle option for ebooks, and so that might be another reason why downloadable
Huh.
books aren't as popular through.
Ebooks are cheap, audiobooks are expensive.
Audiobook licenses in Libby are much more expensive in general than ebook licenses. So it's nice to see positive numbers growing, but on the back end for FY26, we're going to have to dive deeper into our budget and how we're spending the money. So provide to patrons and not get in their way of happiness. So, the website hits are really high so far this fiscal year. I don't know why, but it's good. I really don't know why. There's no substantive change to our website.
People are checking out the new policies.
Oh,
That's right.
That's right. The law side.
But wait, there's more.
Yeah.
I'm
Yes.
sort of wondering if maybe because we require so many children's events to be registered, that we're seeing more events going through the event calendar.
Yeah, and the study room use.
And the study room definitely is also getting a big hit,
Yeah,
and
and they may
probably,
just be sticking around.
and I think they're also using that connection to get into the database too, so they can look for books. So they're going through our website to do it.
Yeah,
that's how I do it.
Yeah.
There you go.
so that's good. And then down just the programming, more programs equals more attendance. So that's nice to see. And it's a validation of all the work that our staff are doing there. That's the stats.
Can I ask a question? Just, I mean, it's not a lot of money, but the lost damage fees, I thought we weren't collecting those anymore.
We collect money for lost or damaged books to replace them, so we have money to buy replacements, but we don't have overdue fines.
Okay.
Should I? Okay, I will. I'm a librarian, right? I have to provide information. So there are 2 Minuteman libraries that still collect overdue fines. This winter may come down to 1. If our patron checks out a book from them, has to pay 10 cents, Minuteman forces us to accept that money. Even though we don't want that 10-cent overdue fine. So we didn't assess the overdue fine. It's not our materials, but it's our patron. And how they paid for it, if they paid for it through their account online, the money's funneled to us. So we don't have overdue fines, but now and then we get 70 cents in our check from Minuteman, which I told them we don't want, and it's against our policy, but there's no way to change that. So we just have to hope these other 1 or 2 libraries get with the act and outlaw overdue funds.
I paid for lost books, so I guess.
Ew.
I'm responsible.
That is important. We do use that money to buy replacements.
Great, thank you, Rob. So we're moving on to the gift list under new business. We can talk about it during new business. I also have something I'm going to add to the new business agenda. So we have 1 gift here on the list that you've sent us, Rob.
Yes, we have a $200 donation from Robert Onifrey. That we deposited to the permanent donation.
Yes.
Thank you, Robert.
Really nice artist too.
Well, thank you, and we will. The chair moves to accept the $200 gift. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion on this? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote to agree to accept. Please say aye. Kate Cahill,
Aye.
Rob Pettit,
Aye.
Dave Fialco,
Aye. Aye.
Michael O'Neill,
Aye.
Megan Small,
I
Joshua Small.
Aye.
The chair is aye. Thank you once again for the generous donation. So looking here at the new business, we have discussion on the timeline for our action plan review and action plan approval. A reminder here on what this is. So we have our strategic plan, the library strategic plan, and every year we want to make an action plan that takes a subset of those items that we've laid out wanting to do over that set of years in the strategic plan and says, we really want to prioritize these over that year. And this is something that we currently have one in force. And so we want to review that over the next couple of months, heading up toward the end of this fiscal year, so that we do a comprehensive review because that is part of our responsibility, making sure we are making progress on the strategic plan. That's one of the key responsibilities of the trustees. And then we also want to then create and approve the fiscal year 26. Now, the trustees will not be the ones writing this action plan, but we will be approving the ones that we receive that kind of list from the staff. And if there is, and then we'll go through a whole process of actually developing that together so that we end up with one that we all feel good about ahead of the start of fiscal year 26. So with that reminder, Rob, have you looked at how we want to think about this as a timeline?
review of the FY 25 action plan. Currently, since Diana joined us, we're having monthly meetings and we're starting to check things off this list. So talk of whether this needs to be a 3-meeting process or a 2-meeting process, either April, May, or June, or May and June. It would be nice to have this review completed before July 1st. We've already begun to talk about an FY 26 action plan, and we hope that that process, which I think maybe 3 meetings would be May, June, July, meaning. Yep. So that we can start that fiscal year with that action plan in place. So I was thinking April, May for review of FY 25, but I think we had some of this complication last year where we're reviewing while we're still trying to complete.
Yes.
So, but April might be a good way for us to review what we've done and where we stand with everything else and things that we've decided to punt on and why. And then in May and June, really get into a proper review like last year.
So let me just say that back to see if I understand it. So April, try and have a discussion about all the things that have been accomplished.
So
for fiscal year
we could
25.
quickly go by each action
Yeah.
item and the status.
Yeah.
The ones that are done, we can just skip, then I can just speak to the in-process ones and where they are, and ones that we've decided, there were just a few that we won't be doing in FY 25.
Right.
And would there be anything that we, the trustees, need to do or prepare for that April meeting?
This is a good question. So last year, Rob Pettit and I kind of tried to come up with a plan for this on how to do this review. And we had a way of kind of breaking it up so that the 6 parts of the action item, or that's the 6?
Yeah.
6 sections were covered by 2 trustees in
3 teams.
Yeah, three teams of 2. And then we had, over the course of 3 meetings, they came in with their reviews. And then we edited that all together and published that as our report. And I remember we sent that to the select board after the July meeting when we approved that final report. So if we were to maybe shift this to a 2 meeting, we might do 3. Like 3 and 3 in terms of the sections of the plan.
Break it into 2 parts, 3 trustees.
Yeah. That could work.
So the April sort of review, and then 3 goals in May, 3 goals in June.
Right, yeah.
And then after that, the formal writing of you did a letter, right? A cover letter?
Yes, I wrote a cover letter as the chair
To the select board.
to the select board and included then. And we used the action plan template as the template for the report.
Right.
So that it's kind of, with the comments in there. And I think that worked really well, was my opinion.
So
Probably biased.
Yeah, as the designer of the
it
template.
was a good organized way to do it, I thought. It helped bring it together in terms of
I agree.
clearly.
I can't comment because I wasn't one of the reviewers.
The idea behind the buddy system, if you will, was that it used to be that there would just be one trustee who would review each goal.
Yeah.
So way back, when I joined, I did like the technology goal. But the idea is that, the evaluation of progress on these goals really should reflect more than just a single trustee's perspective. And by having 2 trustees work on a couple of goals, that provided kind of more input in the early stages of the process. And then of course the entire board reviewed everything. But that was the idea behind kind of pairing up for each goal.
Yeah, and so when we went through them, rather than this idea of what we were talking about in April of kind of checking on the status of each of these things, it was during those review meetings that we actually kind of talked about the status of each of those, because the trustees that were assigned to those different areas that were being presented on, they had worked with you to look, or work with Dimitri in that case, to kind of go at each of the, and see where each of those things was at.
But was it August when the final review was approved?
I think the final report might not have been approved until August. I don't think we had not accepted the final report until August, I think.
I was just hoping.
Oh, yeah, do it earlier. Yeah, I agree.
Did it accept it by July? Is that what you're saying? Out of
Ideally,
July.
it would be nice to get it behind us
Mhm.
as the new fiscal year starts.
We actually have last year's report to start with, because we created kind of the framework, the template, from scratch. Not that there was a lot to it, but at least we have that to build on, so it might be a little bit quicker potentially this year.
And if you add an extra person to that team, definitely.
So in that case, what we're describing in your proposal is that we kind of go through all of those items one by one in that April meeting. And then really what's left for the May and June meeting is then reviewing the reports.
Right, like the review.
Yeah, so the review part where you're actually adding those comments, and then we're talking about the comments, as opposed to just going through each status. It's much more about discussing the work and the comments that have been added by the trustees who are in charge of those pieces.
Makes sense.
So for April, we would just look at the action plan.
Yeah.
Right? And then then at that meeting, we would divvy up who was gonna do which sections, right, with Rob. And then the next two meetings would be to go over those, the review of the
Yeah,
action.
so there'd be a quick turnaround and a lot of work having to happen between April's meeting and May's meeting and May's meeting and June's.
Right.
Like.
Yeah.
Meetings with
We
me.
did,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, I mean, that's a lot on you.
I mean, if someone's going on vacation, you may not want to volunteer for goals 1, 2, and 3.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
one thought, Rob, we did it last year, kind of the input, all the information came from the director. And I wonder, if you wanted to, before the April meeting, you could even circulate that. Although I guess we won't have the teams really and the goals really selected by that point. So maybe that.
So we can still circulate it so we can look at it
Yeah.
and see. That way, when we come into the April meeting, we're not getting it de novo.
Right, if it's ready earlier, then we could always review that.
Like
in
which,
advance
like
of
the,
meeting.
like you said, there's some on there that are easily skippable because they're done. If they're easily skippable, then we're done. If we see that in advance, we're like, great, we're done with this. We don't even have to think about this.
And then some that we're just not gonna get to.
Right.
So they're kind of done too.
There could just be some items at the May meeting that are action items that are part of goals 1, 2, and 3 that might not be done with, and we want to June's meeting to circle back to, just so we
Right.
have the next another month of the staff working on that action item.
I think that's a fair plan. I mean, this is a good time to interject that April is kind of a strange meeting for us.
Yeah.
That's the one that's a day late, right?
That's the one that's on a Wednesday. And it's on a Wednesday because the election is the night before.
I can already tell you I'm not gonna be good.
Okay.
Yeah,
Which, that Wednesday?
That Wednesday, yeah.
So can you be remote?
No, I'm working.
Yeah.
I have an evening shift.
So, so that night, we also elect our officers according to our bylaws, right? And so there will be a new chair and vice chair, secretary elected from amongst us that evening. Usually that's on a rotating system. But we haven't been following the rotation.
Well, we have been sort of following, we have been trying, but it's gotten a little discombobulated.
We've
because
kept
had
things
new-
moving. I wouldn't say it's a rotation. And so that's something we actually, need to think about. a little bit in terms of who's interested in taking some of those officer roles. And now we obviously have a couple of trustees who are up for election. And so we have to,
Who may or may not be here.
who
next
may or may
meeting.
not be here because those are contested. So that's something we have to think about as we're looking for who is going to step up for those positions. But with the election, that usually is a handoff then of the facilitation duties.
Right.
And so we have to think about that.
You would open the meeting.
I would open the meeting.
And then the election happens, we
Yes.
elect officers. And by the way, in addition to the 3 offices, we also have to elect the chair of this, which I currently am, the chair of the art committee, so there's actually 4.
Yeah.
And then the new chair, whoever it's going to be, runs the rest of the meeting.
Takes over. And so that's why it's important to think about what's all on deck for April.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and we might be onboarding new trustees, right? Which we have to think about. 2, if we're thinking about this annual plan review, we want to think about who is stewarding that process. Because one thing that Rob and I did is we took on stewardship of that ahead of time and thought about it with I guess Dimitri, to start thinking about what that process would look like and then what the templates would ultimately be like. And then we shepherd that through kind of regardless of the election. And I don't remember when we started, actually. I have to look back at my email.
In terms of time of year last.
Yeah,
I think it's February or March.
yeah, but we started ahead of the April.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't,
Yes.
because my first meeting, you were already discussing.
We were already
Yeah.
Right, it was
moving it
April,
forward.
May, June. We presented two goals at each of those meetings.
Mhm.
It's too late to suggest a different day for that meeting. It seems like it should be pushed a week or something.
Oh, you mean push the April meeting?
Yeah, maybe for next year, but just, as it's tough if there are new people and we're in the middle of this important process for the end of the fiscal year and the new people are like catching up or like have no chance to be able to know what's going on that first meeting.
Right.
There may not be new people, it may not be a problem this year, but in future years it might be, so.
So the date is specified in our bylaws.
Yep.
And we'd have to, well, not change we could change the bylaws, that would be, would be the nuclear option. But we could vote to
Yeah.
change the meeting date, but we would have to know what that is ahead for this agenda.
We got
And
that
be
now.
ready to vote on it at this meeting.
Got it. Okay, so maybe it's too late. Kayla, did you ever?
I could change it if you wanted. I do have Tuesday the 15th available. Yes, it's tax day, but it's the only empty night I got.
Fire from the front pan to the fire.
I'm not sure I feel convinced that we have to change it because in some sense, it's always been done this way, right? That's kind of the part of the fun of the transition. The people who get elected run to town hall the next day to the town clerk and have to get sworn in before the meeting. I mean, I don't know. It's just a bit of a tradition that's always worked. Bring new members come in and they come in, jump in with both feet.
I don't think anybody who's been a trustee ever came in
Knowing anything.
So it was, I can just say, it's quite the ride, so you just get your popcorn and listen for the first couple of months, and then all of a sudden it starts to, luckily, for somebody like myself, like we've had Kay and Earhart, so it's been Rob, and it's just like this real solid group of people that help us keep us up to speed, so it's good.
And Jay, don't forget Jay.
That's right.
And Jay
He's-
last
I
year.
He's not in the room, but he's,
He's here in spirit,
well, he's more than that.
more than that.
He's here in ones and zeros.
I can understand the idea of giving us an extra week once the election is over. If for no other reason than to move a bunch of orientation documents into the inbox of whoever wins that election. if we have turnover. But I also don't think we don't necessarily, it's not necessary that we have to move this meeting to do the work. Anyone feel strongly about it?
It's almost like tax day. It comes at this certain time. There's not much you can do about it. You
Yeah.
just have to kind of
Yeah,
adjust.
we can change it, like,
Right.
we could change it, conditions be damned, but I don't feel that strong about it, it's
No.
fine.
So I'm happy to volunteer myself to shepherd the review process, at least through April, to make sure that there's continuity there. I was fortunate enough that I got to work on it last year, and be part of that shepherding process, and feel it's right as chair, as current chair to maintain that. So I will at least do that to get us going.
I mean, Rob and I are both up for election, so we don't know whether we'll be here. So probably can't volunteer quite yet.
But if there's anybody else of the returning trustees that is interested in helping, essentially what this would be making sure that come April, we're ready to kind of divvy up those responsibilities, and then think about those assignments for the May and June meeting. And then, feel like if you haven't gone through that review process, feel comfortable with the templates and what you're doing. there
I'll
anybody
simply say, I'm willing to share the responsibility with you, but I'm happy to defer to any of the other trustees who haven't, had an opportunity to participate in that way. But, I'm available if needed to share that responsibility with you.
Sitting here, I just wanted to know how we go about just how we categorize those particular things. I think that would be really the not necessarily the selling point, but just a way to kind of shepherd it forward, just so there's some level of comfort.
Yeah.
For people who would be new to it, because I know I was petrified when I first got it. They know I'm telling the truth, but it was just like, okay, after we got into it, it made sense.
Sure.
I felt 100% better when it was done. Yes.
Okay. You and me, Jay. We'll make this happen. Thank you. Which leads us to the next item, which is talking about town meeting in May.
So, town meeting May has, well, you have a technology article, capital improvement plan article that is our annual technology request as part of the plan to replace our hardware on cycle. So that's will be before town meeting, but the other two items of our report are operating budget request and money for construction of phase 1. So the operating budget request for FY26 included moving $26,000 that we pay for overtime advantage from our library state aid line item into the operating budget, because it's been in state aid for many years. It's no longer an innovative trend we're trying. It's established and a big success. So I put in the money into an existing line item for our materials spending. So that line item is increased by $30,000. But the finance committee, after our hearing, considered was that should have been a DSR4 request to move that funding into our operating budget. And since DSR4 forms are not being approved this fiscal year, that $26,000 will be cut from our operating budget request. So for the next state aid for that funding again. Next year, for FY 27, submit a DSR 4 form to move that 26,000 into the office.
Disappointing.
But everything else, say okay.
So the reason they think it should be a DSR 4 is.
Because it is not currently in the
Right, it's not
operating
current,
budget.
right.
It would be an introduction of something new in my mind.
And that's
We
the
have-
DSR 4 is something that's gonna be a recurring expense, but new.
Right. For me, it was increased our materials line item. And
Yeah.
we determined how that money is
This
spent
is for materials.
on materials. And so in my mind, it wasn't a DSR 4 and initially it didn't come up that it should have been.
Right.
But most recently, it did. So, but the good news is everything else is.
Now, if I remember correctly, that is part of an omnibus budget that is presented by the select board as one whole article, as opposed to the library budget being a separate article.
No, it's one article, but
But it includes all, like, all of the departmental
town
budgets
budget.
are in one article.
Right, but then they
Yeah.
go through it item by item, and if anybody wishes to speak about a specific line item.
Right.
they can.
Right, but it's not like we would have an article that would just be the library budget.
right.
We don't
That's
have
what I
to
mean.
vote on the library.
It's not like the
separately.
library and DPW and whatever have separate.
Whereas the technology request is a separate
Is-
article.
Right, and that's
That is-
buried into other small capital improvement requests. The technology thing, so it doesn't stand on its own.
Okay, so it's
Oh, it doesn't.
mixed with other
It's mixed
It's mixed with
departmental
other departments.
requests.
Okay,
Excellent.
so it's an amount that's mixed with, other. Okay, that's good.
So the other thing is the standalone article for the construction project, which is $2.386 million for phase 1. So that's at Maytown meeting. So
That's a big white book you have there.
this is the budget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So starting this month, well, it's already begun. They started at the end of February or meeting last week, which was March. The FinCom has started to review articles for the warrant for Maytown meeting. So later this month, Hank and I will go and speak to them about the article for the phase 1.
Do you need any trustee support with you or behind you, or you're just sitting quietly? Would that in your mind help, or should we?
It should go well. There's nothing on the horizon that is showing that there are any hiccups.
Okay.
But if anybody wants to comment, there won't be a opportunity to speak to FinCom, but it should go well. Town meeting. We'll be working on a Q&A for patrons and others to have information about this project coming up. And we've also had the Charles River Chamber of Commerce said they'll send a letter to town meeting members. So we'll provide information to town meeting members and to patrons to talk about the importance of this funding for construction after all the planning that we've done, the real need for this work. So that's part of the communication timeline and plan that we've been working on. Is creating those materials that would help our library supporters to talk about projects and the need for BS.
We have 3 town meeting members here, so that's good. And we're all available on the floor to step up if needed.
Yeah, and this is for anyone who's thinking of whoever becomes chair in April, you will also become an at-large member of the town meeting.
Before.
And so if you are not already a town meeting member, you will be one. And when I became chair, I quickly got ready to present on behalf of the library around these warrant articles in town meeting, in case we were called up to defend those items.
And Rob did the same. You had to speak when you first
For
became
the
chair.
space planning study, yeah.
Yeah. I was not, we did not have, it didn't come up last year, which was wonderful. The
You were
town
ready,
meeting was
though.
ready, but I was ready. The other thing that we did last year was we reused Jay's letter to the select board and FinCom as a letter to town meeting to advocate from the trustees and in the additional materials which get published on the website in association with each of the warrant articles. And so if we wanted to do that again,
You should.
then I would need to probably call a vote to say that we wanted to reuse that letter and send it forward. I don't know when they're collecting those materials or when the deadline will be, but it might make sense to approve that tonight.
Do you have it to look at it?
Yeah.
It's I mean, no, I did not circulate it.
Because, and it might need some updating. I would
We
certainly
could-
think that.
Yeah, I
Look
don't
back.
remember what the deadline is for materials.
Can I just add that we were perhaps also going to get a letter of support from Greg Reedman of the Chamber of Commerce, and maybe we can put something together with Greg and distribute that along with the letter you're referring to so that they're both part of the materials that are shared in advance of town meeting. Is that possible?
I mean, it's certainly possible. My question is, I don't know when the deadline is to
Submit.
submit
I
those
don't
things,
either.
and I would worry about that submission deadline coming after our April meeting or coming before. That's my only concern.
Yeah. Okay.
I just realized this, I've had
Yeah.
meetings.
I meet with Katie at 9 tomorrow. so
Okay.
We can check with Katie in the town to find out what that deadline is. I think she was, familiar with the process.
Yeah, Rob just said he's meeting with Katie tomorrow morning.
Oh, okay. I
We'll
didn't hear.
ask when the deadline is for us to submit materials, right?
Okay, I didn't hear. I'm sorry.
I didn't talk loud enough.
Anything else we want to mention about town meeting? I mean, this is an opportunity for all of you to get into advocacy mode as trustees of the library. You may know the town meeting members in your precinct, and talking to them and making sure that they understand the importance of these particular items for the library.
Yeah, and any kind of email blast to your Needham friends, everybody can email blast or social media in favor of the libraries, revamping its space routines.
I mean, you said you're gonna do Q&A for patrons and stuff like that. Do you want, or is there going to be talking points for us to bring to our town meeting members or to put on Facebook or Instagram or whatever? Like 3 or 4 bullet points
Yeah, I
kind of thing?
we definitely will provide information for you, but maybe not in a prepackaged way that looks like we are participating in a.
Advocacy.
Right. I mean, I guess what I'm asking is,
But yeah, you're
because
not on your own.
we here have a lot more information than necessarily would have to give to our neighbors or that there are things that there are things that the library wants to emphasize that it would just be nice if we know what to emphasize that the library wants to emphasize.
We will be done.
Factually speaking.
Fact, right. We're building a hot tub for Ron.
He said, yeah. With that.
So we'll want to return to that in the April meeting, this giant meeting. We'll probably talk more about the May town meeting. Agenda item.
And just a reminder, before that meeting is the social.
Oh, that's right, the social is that night. So please plan to arrive at 6.
That's
here.
that's a Sunday night.
Light
Wednesday.
refreshments.
Oh, it's Wednesday.
Not a
Oh,
dinner.
Light refreshments, yeah.
That's the elephant and friends.
Yeah. they were
It's
meeting with
here
Daryl.
before our meeting that
Yes.
Wednesday night. Okay.
Yeah, this is.
Won't be here for that. I forgot about it, so like I always ask for this night off, but I didn't
Yeah.
ask for that night off.
Right.
It's in my calendar that like the library trustees meeting, it's like just set.
Tuesday.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
So, it'll be great for that social at 6 PM to have some of this content available for great library supporters to take away.
Oh, yeah. That's good.
Yes, that's true. Professional writer for my whole life. If anyone needs me to help jump in and create bullet points or whatever, I'm available.
There's also like a Q&A part that Hank does for his projects that we'll be part of. So he'll be back too. But,
He's going to do that at that gathering.
no,
what you're saying? No.
As part of the annual town meeting process and the capital improvement process, he develops, like he said, the Q&A for each project,
Oh, okay.
which will be developed and may have some information, but maybe more technical on whatnot.
Mhm.
Be different.
So I can work on a revision of the letter ahead of April for us to review.
It just makes it important as we communicate about this, whether it be the letter or wherever, bullet points, that we do make it clear that, we have these important goals to renovate for our team, but that we're also being cautious fiscally. We are being fiscally careful, and that's one reason that we're moving forward with this piece by piece, as opposed to asking for a full-scale renovation of the libraries. People need to know that we are looking after the taxpayers' dollars by doing it in a careful, step-by-step way.
And we're also in competition with, not in a bad way, but there are schools like Pollard and that are also seeking the same thing, but really trying to achieve that balance of understanding that, okay, yes, we understand these things also need to happen, but the patrons, these students still come here to do their work. So we have.
We
do have
serve,
good
we
footing.
serve the entire population of
Exactly.
Needham, and so that's, I think, our strength, right?
Yes.
One more, we keep jumping around this new business, but if anyone is interested in the positions of chair, vice chair, and secretary, feel free to reach out to me or reach out to others who have held those positions in the past to ask questions ahead of next April, so that you kind of feel confident in your candidacy going into that. We'll put forward the names that that are running for those positions, and we'll have discussion and vote. Okay. Next item, review of expiration of open meeting law.
Do you want me to give you the update from today?
This is
Or what?
specific to the
The expiration.
ending of the.
Yeah.
Right.
But I want to hear about this
Okay.
too at the same time.
So a memo was sent out in February stating that the current state rules allowing for the hybrid meeting and the Zoom meeting process to play out expire on March 31st. And the state legislature would need to vote to extend that. And then talked about what changes would occur starting April 1st if they did expire. Luckily for the Board of Library Trustees, it looks like nothing would change because it's a hybrid meeting already. And hybrid would still be allowed. If this meeting was Zoom only, then it would be a big change because that's would not be allowed after they expire. So, I don't know if there's much more to say, whether or not they're extended. Business stance.
Yeah, the only thing that's just sharpened there is this idea that if you want to be remote for a meeting, you need the chair's permission, which was already the policy in place, but I don't know that we were as formal about it. But the rules about running a hybrid meeting require that that be part of the policy. That you are to be in person unless you have been pre-approved to be remote.
Yeah.
By
has to
the
be
chair.
permission by the chair.
And so we just want to keep that in mind. If we're planning to travel or be remote, you always want to reach out to the chair ahead of time and then get that pre-approval before you then attend remotely.
They did speak a little bit about it today.
Yes,
And
please share.
basically just said that it's about to expire. It's today's meeting, just so you know, was Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners had brought in the AG's office, representatives from the Attorney General's office, open meeting law to advise on that. And when the topic of the remote meetings law came up, they basically said, as they saw it under the current law, the chair must be physically present at a hybrid meeting. The quorum must be physically present. Remote attendees must be visible, which J is, and all votes are roll call, which are all things we're doing. They did say that there is actually no word yet on what the legislature is going to do. So nobody at this meeting or the AG's office knows whether hybrid meetings or remote meetings will be continued to be allowed. So that's that one point.
Did you say that the chair had to be at the meeting?
That's what they said today, that a hybrid meeting, the chair must be present and a quorum must be present in person.
Isn't there a meeting at one point in time this year?
Yeah, I was remote
just
as
thinking,
chair.
that's
Apparently.
right.
Yeah, we were in
It's
a
supposed to be
version of
Yeah.
the
And
role.
I think Rob's gonna step forward.
Yeah, so you could do something
Yes.
like have the vice chair step.
Yeah, you just
Yeah.
have the vice chair take
Oh.
over.
It's not to say that you can't participate in the meeting, you just can't lead the meeting.
Right.
Is that what they're saying with that?
I believe that's what it was. I mean, there was a little back and forth. I didn't ask questions about that. That's just what they said is required of a hybrid meeting currently, and how anything will change, they seem to have no predictions.
Right.
You want to hear the rest of, the open meeting?
Yeah, do you have any other particular things that stood out from?
Yeah, a few things
from that
that
meeting?
stood out. I'll just, I tried to put them in brief here. One thing I thought was worth mentioning that doesn't apply directly to us, but was surprising to me, is apparently town meetings, the legislative bodies of towns, called town meetings, are not subject to the open meeting law. Town meetings are exempt, which was new to me. I just thought I'd let people know that. So here's the other, here's a few things that came up. Unposted agenda items. This came up a couple of meetings ago when I asked for a vote on the artists, which hadn't been included in the packet. So I asked that question and somebody later asked almost the same question, and twice they answered that. So I said, can an item that is not posted on the agenda be discussed in the meeting or voted on? And they said, yes. The Attorney General representative said a board can discuss and even vote on an item that is not on the agenda if it were an unanticipated item at the time the agenda was posted. So in that case, we held the art meeting the day before this meeting, and not until then did we know which artists had been selected. So in that case, it was definitely unanticipated which artists would be voting on. And so we could enter that into the meeting. Tonight, actually, my speaking tonight, for example, I'm not on the agenda, but nevertheless, I'm speaking about the open meeting law that was held today. It was held today. Okay, so then they mentioned certification forms. They were reminding us that all elected, once you're elected, you must go to the town clerk's office and sign the open meeting certification form, and that must be on record. They talked about subcommittees, which has come up for us a number of times. Anytime more than one trustee is designated to work in collaboration with other trustees on a topic that will be reported back to the board, it is an official subcommittee and must adhere to open meeting laws. The board may appoint individual trustees to work on topics individually. That is not a subcommittee. A town official, administrator, or even a member of the board may form an advisory group. That can include a single library board member. More than one board member would make it a subcommittee. So Rob or somebody you appoint can form an advisory group. If there's more than one trustee on it, it then becomes a subcommittee. And board members may talk to each other or email each other or text each other so long as no more than 3 people are included in a discussion. And that includes serial conversations. But you are allowed to, it's not a violation of the board to share documents, information, articles by whatever means they want to, as long as it's not accompanied by any comment or opinion. Something like when a meeting has come up, or in a magazine article, or a draft of a report. All of these can be shared, but there's no commentary allowed to come along with it, nor can people respond with commentary. You can fix a typo, they said. Any replies or edits to the content that comes back from 3 or more people to the board constitutes a quorum in a public meeting. Simply passing on information, an article, a notice, with no opinions that are forwarding any of those things is okay, not in violation. So while a board member, this came up during our strategic planning process, which was a little difficult to manage. So when we had drafts of the strategic plan, I had initially thought, well, you know, all the trustees can send their reactions to me and I'll collate, and that's not okay. But the director can do that. We can send to the director, who can then incorporate it and collate and redistribute. Attending events. Board members or private citizens can attend any public or private gathering, even if there is a quorum of trustees there. Trustees must not discuss issues that may become before the board for a decision. But you can be in the same room at any event. Remote meetings law, I did that. Social media and texting. A post may be made to social media meant to communicate to the public. This is not a violation of open meeting law. A post intended to communicate with fellow board members is a violation. And there's no texting or emailing among the quorum other than what we said, informational documents only, with no discussion. Public comments at meetings. Boards are not required, but may allow public comment. They're not required to allow public comment. They may allow public comment during a public comment session, or they may allow it during the regular meeting, and it's up to the chair whether to allow it. If a disruptive person becomes disruptive, they could be asked to leave. If they don't leave, they can be removed legally. Well, that's presumably that would have to be police.
Or the library sergeant at arms.
Since you brought it up, we can have Megan be that seven.
The muscle.
Sergeant at arms.
Yes, exactly.
She's a mom, you don't want to do it.
So that was, oh, and they also talked about the minutes. Minutes must record all motions and votes. Roll call votes, the names must be listed. And in terms of discussion of motions, there's no need to mention names or say what each person said. In fact, they recommend a general discussion of the topic and how it was discussed.
And they want the names for the roll call vote?
They don't, yes, you need the names for the roll call vote.
Noted
Yes,
on
all
each
names must be listed on the roll
Okay,
call.
because we haven't been
But-
doing that, we've just been saying.
But
roll
for
call.
just the discussion part, summarize what was discussed. Such that a member of the public reading it can understand what was discussed. But there's no need to say, this person said this and this person said that, which is difficult because it's hard to capture exactly that.
I would imagine though that a roll call vote, as long as it's unanimous and you have the attendees listed at the top of the
Yeah, you
minutes,
don't
should be
need to-
fine.
Yeah, you don't need to.
But it would need to be disaggregated if there was any dissent.
Okay, thank you.
That's a good point. If you got them all listed there, you say it's unanimous, then it's obvious. So that's kind of what.
Thank you. Evan.
And I have these notes if people would like me to send them to them. So.
They recorded it too, so. I
And
can
it was, yeah, and if
share
you
it.
want to see the,
It was 90 minutes.
yeah, if you want to listen in. They went into executive session. They discussed executive session, but I didn't really, we're not doing that right now. It's not something
Right.
imminent for us, so.
That was helpful. Thank you for putting that.
I'd like to see it, Kay, just to go over the minutes
Okay,
in my own
yeah,
head, if
I'll
you don't mind,
email it out.
please.
For the law that you can email it out without commentary.
Yes, no commentary, strictly
Strictly
informational.
That brings us to old business. We have a library policy that was introduced previously. The Children in the library policy. And we had some discussion then, and I believe some additional edits have been made since then. So we review that language.
So this was shared at the February meeting for the first time with the trustees. So tonight it could be voted on, but I'm asking that you do not do so.
Okay.
Because we haven't finished the internal procedures section on the last page, and in that Kay asked for, and I agree with her that for this policy in particular, that's important for trustees to see that a lot of the language that is not, that was is in the existing policy that was removed, it doesn't mean it's gone. It's just part of our internal procedures. That document's not complete yet, but we did make edits to the policy itself based on the conversation at the February meeting, and then Kay came in. I met with Kay last week, and we went over some other edits that Megan and she had.
And Megan also reviewed and made
Incorporated
edits.
those here, what you see before you. So, talk about it further, but the internal procedures section is not complete.
All right, so we will not move to vote on this tonight, but perhaps we can review that language so that make that process more expedient. Come April.
Yeah, people want to look at it and see if they have any.
I do have one comment of the way commas are used and makes it a little confusing. So I guess it's on line 4. Parents, comma, guardians, comma, and their designated caregivers. Who is the they're referring to? I mean, I know it's referring to children, but it could be referring to the parents or guardians as well.
No, I
think
would
it
say
should
it's
be or,
referring
not
to
an and.
parents.
Get rid of the word there.
They could do that too. Yeah.
I agree.
The antecedent's not clear.
Yep.
I think, yeah,
Get rid of
I
that.
think deleting their words, but I think the
Yeah.
intent was that there was referring to parents or guardians who designated caregivers.
Right, but it could be referring to the children's designated caregivers as well, as opposed to the, right, so. Thank you.
Seems like we could eliminate there without damage.
I have a small comment on that same sentence.
Mhm.
When you go further where you say, "I'm not responsible for supervising children," you say, "and cannot know," but it's possible they may know. Why don't we just say, "not responsible for supervising children or knowing whether children are leaving the building with caregivers or knowing if." I wouldn't say, "and cannot know." They're not responsible for supervising children or knowing if children are leaving the building.
So you're saying and cannot,
I would delete "and cannot know"
yeah,
and replace it with "or knowing."
or knowing, yeah.
Because they may know. They're just not responsible for knowing.
Staff are not responsible for supervising children.
That's what it already says, "are not responsible for supervising children or knowing whether if children are leaving the building." That was just a thought.
Yeah, I think that's
That makes sense.
better. Yeah.
we say, or knowing if children are leaving the building or knowing whether?
I like weather, but I could live with if.
Whether to.
And then just similar in the bolded section, like the next bolded section, who is either, the last line, who is either a parent or a guardian or their designated caregiver. Again, I would change there to a designated caregiver.
Guardian. Parent, comma, guardian, or designated caregiver.
Yeah. I don't know if you need commas, but
Where are we?
I'm sorry,
The
that
bold
bold
sentence.
sentence, the next one. Children between ages of 0 and 9 must be directly supervised by a responsible person, age 13 or up, who is either a parent or guardian or designated caregiver. I would just get rid of the there.
Or make it just a parent, comma, guardian, or designated caregiver.
Either way is fine.
I mean, I guess that there in those two locations is meant to suggest that the parents and guardians should be responsible for designating a caregiver.
Yeah, that's, that's why it's,
That's the
that's why the
implication.
there is
So
there.
then should it be a caregiver designated by the parent or guardian?
I think that's where we started. I think we
Is
had
it?
lots of words before.
I don't know, I'm sorry, the antecedent there, to me, feels like it could either be referring to the parent or to the child.
Right.
But,
I think saying designated caregiver implies that we mean the parent or the guardian.
right, so why do you need the there?
Designated.
Yeah, so
Right.
take out the there. If it's confusing,
Yeah.
it seems confusing.
Okay.
But no, what you just said, I think is where we started.
Okay, so
That's
okay, it's either a parent, comma, guardian, or
Parent, comma,
designated.
Designated.
Or designated.
Yeah, parent,
Caregiver.
comma, guardian, comma, or designated.
Either way, get rid of one of the ors with a comma and then.
Yep.
Then it makes it flows better too.
Great.
Is it, does it go to a designated? So it goes a parent, comma, guardian. Or a designated caregiver.
Okay,
Or
Yeah,
just-
that, or, you're right, that's parallel construction there, I'm like, oh,
Well, we
no,
just need the A at the beginning, right?
that's guardian or, yeah, you only need one, that's true.
We just need the A in front of parent.
Is one of the internal policies discussion, is part of it that like parents have to show, or if, like, because there's this cutoff between 9 and 10, right? So how do you know that someone is 9 or 10? Like, is that part of the internal policy discussion as to if someone is concerned that this kid is, you know, a big 8-year-old or a small 11-year-old? Like, is that a, like, how does that, where does that judgment come in? And is that gonna be something that you guys are discussing?
Yes,
Okay,
and it's
Perfect.
situational.
yeah,
Yeah, so we won't be.
you're not asking for ID, I
cross-examining
understand.
Every child, but, yeah. Yeah, things like that will be part of the internal procedures, so, staff feel confident that they can implement the policy in a professional, standard way that is acceptable.
To be reviewed in it. Other comments on this language we have in front of us? Great, making good progress on this policy. Where are we at with the timeline of policies?
So we're a little behind with filming and videography in the library, Josh.
That's okay.
So,
It feels like,
That's next.
it feels like that's gonna be like pushed to like July or
no,
August.
no, no.
Just based on all the
no,
other work
it's
that's coming up.
A draft in April is gonna happen. So
Okay,
I'll
so-
be in touch. with
Yeah,
you
that's fine.
Before then.
Totally.
Josh is the contact who has interest in that one.
Yeah.
So that will get back on track for April. There are a couple of children department policies that were up for review. The STEM road policy and another children's department space specific policy. We're looking at creating a children's department policy and blending those into this new children's room policy, since we'll have a teen room policy too. So, I'll bring an updated timeline to April's meeting that shows that change. But we're doing, I think we're doing well, considering we're having robust conversations and we're on track. The team room policy, hopefully we can have a draft of that. Also for April's meeting, which seems like maybe we just put the social to 5 and start the meeting at 6. It's gonna be very long, but I think it would be important to get team room done before July 1st.
I just have a quick question about that. Does it make sense to have, I mean, I'm thinking until the place is there, and we see it with our own eyes, is it better?
I had the same
Would
thought,
it be better
actually,
to
yeah.
wait, or, you know, I'm not questioning what you're saying, but I'm just wondering what the advantages of doing it before we even have the team done.
So our communication plan can say what the new rules are for engaging with that space.
Ahead.
Okay. Yeah, we may find that we need to tweak it or something 6 months out.
If it's in use.
Right after the ribbon cutting, we want policy in place.
Right, that's true, but I mean, when is I don't disagree with that, I think we absolutely have to have it in place, you know, a month or, you know, beforehand, but when is I don't recall the timeline exactly, but.
We want to
Yeah,
start
probably
in
like
September.
next February, ribbon cutting.
Right, so I mean,
Right.
so like, that means we probably have to have a policy in place by November, December. Right, I mean, I just don't understand why, like, it needs to be done now. I mean, if there's,
We're just trying to check off all boxes we
Got
can
Get through the list.
before construction
Okay.
Oh,
starts.
okay.
And just like
You want to be ready.
get all the projects done and out of the way. We don't really, we can imagine what construction's gonna be like here.
Mhm.
And we will plan so it's not chaos on a daily basis. But, you know, the work we can get done sooner we'd like to.
Incentive for
That's- yeah.
whoever is thinking about being chair, you'd probably be more proximate to the scissors. Let's get a photo of ribbon cutting.
Big scissors.
All right, thank you for that. Yeah, we probably don't. I was gonna say, we don't want to push too hard on moving through policies between now and July with the annual review.
Okay, so do you want me to bring an updated timeline and discuss that at April's meeting?
That might be a good
Yeah.
idea.
And not do anything new that we haven't seen?
No, I'm fine if we have one that's ready to go. I'm just thinking in terms of how we use our time as trustees and staff time. Because, you know, you're also going to be reaching out to staff to make sure that the annual review is correct and accurate for all the things that happened. So I just want us to, you know, be reasonable about our time so that we do everything well.
And also, we hear what you're saying in terms of team room and wanting to kind of get all the ducks lined up ahead of time. So if it makes sense to get the team policy in
Right.
to us, before us, you know,
I thought it
I
was
feel like that's
because
fine.
there was something that they needed to have, if I could be mistaken, it was just like something that you were bringing to the town. Because I know that was part of something I was gonna be involved.
Oh,
Wasn't that it was like something that, why it was important to have it in place earlier than sooner than later, because it had to clear something with the town. But it was,
I don't think this is a policy that we asked like town council to review. There were some others that we will. I don't think we need to.
interpreted it,
But yeah, and Michael, yeah, is the contact. Liaison.
Anything else about policy work that you wanted to mention? We're running a little late tonight, but I think we'll be able to wrap up. Really quickly. So moving to library art and exhibits committee report. Okay.
yeah, so we basically have, right now, we have Alfred D'Angelo exhibiting his rather interesting and extraordinary art. He did a meet and greet, I understand, which I was not here for, but I guess he got a good turnout for his friends and other people. And I think Gay told me that he set up something with the high school and is going to bring a high school group
Yes.
over here to.
Well, brand new teacher up at the high school, got a chance to meet him when they were here for the somewhat award ceremony for Art in Bloom. And she was so fascinated with his art that she talked to him extensively. And in the aftermath, she's going to be bringing her class down here to the library to view the art. And he's going to meet them and we'll have a discussion with them on surrealism.
Surrealism, yeah. So nice, interesting type of art.
So a nice connection for us.
So he's here through March. April is open studios on both wall and cases. May is Needham High School Art Scholastic Art Awards. We voted on these already. When is Art in Bloom?
It was this past weekend.
Oh, we just had it. Oh my gosh, I missed
It was fabulous.
Terrible.
That's right. I don't have numbers yet, but we will have numbers when Daniel gets back.
Okay.
I will tell you that for the mini exhibit in the high school, I understand we had a number of gold key winners this year. So we're gonna have a full wall of art coming in, plus some 3D coming out of, I believe, the junior high again.
And then we're setting up our meeting, our next meeting, the committee for April after the election. If I'm still here, I will lead that meeting, or if not, and we do have to elect officers and a new chair for the committee, so all of that. But I'm just setting up a meeting to get it on the calendar.
Thank you. MacIver series one?
So I'm hoping to do at least one more MacIver program this year. I have a couple irons in the fire right now. One's the Streets Project, who had actually reached out to the library a couple of years ago. I'm hoping to put something together with them, but also as backup in case that doesn't work out.
Friends of the Library, Jay?
Yeah, they had a presentation by the author Paul Fisher on March 2nd. I was unfortunately out of town and wasn't able to attend. I don't know if anyone else was. He spoke about William James and Henry James and Alice James and their whole family, and he's a very highly regarded author. And I wish I can say I was there, and I don't know if anybody was, but I've heard good things. This is another successful event, as all the Friends speakers series have been. And I don't have much else to report about the Friends. Rob, were you at a Friends meeting that I missed? If there's anything to report, I don't know.
No, but the Ted Landsmark lecture happened after the February trustees meeting. And
Oh, okay, that was after that meeting.
very fascinating. All of these channel records and it's on the YouTube channel. But that was a big success too, which was just
Yeah.
the Sunday before James Fisher.
That's right.
And just to preview, the next two are going to be very popular. If you want to sign up sooner than later, Jay has 2 contacts.
Well, Susan, Suzanne Simpson is a colleague of mine at GBH. She's the executive producer of Masterpiece, and so she's going to talk about the behind the scenes of what goes on with Masterpiece and the upcoming films. I'm sure that'll be a popular and very interesting event. And an old friend of mine in June, a guy named Warren Zanes, who some of you may remember back in the 80s was in a rock band called the Del Fuegos, which was for a while the coolest band in town. But since then has gone on to great success. He went back to school, got his PhD, has become a really outstanding author. He wrote a very well-received biography of Tom Petty, and then he wrote more recently a book about the making of Bruce Springsteen's album Nebraska, which is being made into a feature film. And so starring, I wish I can't remember the guy's name, but he was great. He was the lead actor in a TV series called The Bear. I don't know if any of you heard, very talented guy. it's going to be a, a big film. So he's involved with Springsteen, and he's going to be talking about his life as both a musician and as an author. And he's really for those of you who have ever read Roger Angell, who's a great writer who wrote about baseball, I would say that Warren Zanes is becoming, the Roger Angell of writing about music. He's really that talented. His books are just really, really wonderful. So those will be two very exciting events coming up.
Do you have anything to report from the Library Foundation meeting?
Only that, Rob attended a meeting, their last meeting, and made a presentation to give them a sort of a heads up about the possible needs that the library will have for some supplemental financial support to go along with the the building of the new teen center, and he made a very impressive presentation, and they responded. They didn't have a formal vote, but the consensus was extremely favorable in terms of figuring out supporting the notion of the foundation doing what the Friends has already indicated they will do, which is being supportive of providing some additional financial resources to cover some expenses that might be related to the build out of the new center, but not technically covered by the budget. The details have not been formally approved, but Rob was very persuasive, and my impression was that they were unanimously in support of providing some support, just as the Friends were when he made a presentation to them. Gay Ellen, I see your hand.
I want to add in that the Library Foundation is actually sponsoring their own program. It'll be Thursday, April 10th, starting at 6:30.
That's right.
We are bringing in Judith Kalora from History of Play. She's doing her presentation of After the Midnight Ride of Rachel Revere's Untold Story. 6:30, they're going to be serving refreshments. There's some kind of little cafe type thing in the back of our room, and then Rachel, they will have the presentation afterwards of the play. So this is something that they're using as to get the word out that they do exist. And it's not just that they sponsor us, but they also do their own stuff.
Yeah. Thank you for adding that, Gay Ellen. I appreciate that. I teach that night, and unfortunately won't be able to attend that event, but I'm sure it'll be really interesting and wonderful.
Registration is open for that one. I am still waiting to get from GBH the actual press release before I put up their April program. I want to make sure the wording is correct on that.
Thank you.
Moving to trustee comments.
The only one I was gonna say is that I didn't have a chance to say that I wanted to assist you in Jack. Yes, I know it's advantageous, it's a big thing to do, but the more people
it can be also becomes an open meeting law problem.
Oh, okay. I didn't think of that. I just, now that Kate has brought that up.
Because I think with two of us, it doesn't become a subcommittee if it's logistical.
Okay.
But with three of us, I don't think we have a
I tell you what,
choice.
I'll be on the bullpen if somebody goes
Yeah, if
down.
it's just a
I
kind of
appreciate that.
one-on-one
Thank you.
conversation.
I just realized that, yeah, you're absolutely right. about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Oh, and my trustee comment is one, to thank particularly Josh for jumping in. The trivia bee is tomorrow night.
Oh.
Last year, Earhart and I did it and came in second.
Yeah.
And this year I'm bowing out because I have sickness in the family, and that place is full of runny noses. So Josh has volunteered to jump in, and Rob is doing it too, right? So I thank you. And Gay.
Yeah.
All right, so four people
And
here.
Ginny and Andy from our staff too. So full complement of 6 team library bookies, right?
The library bookies, right?
Library
That's the traditional
And Kay's
name.
volunteered to be our team captain.
Thank you.
And record
Thank
our.
you, Gay.
Yes.
They're making a hotspot because I don't trust their internet up there.
It does come and
It's
go.
rigged.
It was, 2 years ago, it was really
Yeah, they had a
bad.
real problem. It was terrible. But last year was better.
No, last year
Yeah.
worked.
And it is a fun event, so
It
I'm
is.
sure it'll be fun.
And it's worth, and you can just come, I believe. You don't have to.
That's at the high
Like
school.
you be a
right?
spectator?
I thought you
I-
could, can you not?
I have a feeling, I seem
the
to
cafeteria is
remember
the
that
same.
they
I mean, I
don't,
feel like it
because
must
it's
be.
full,
Yeah.
it's already
The room is
full.
very full, but they have a raffle too, with really awesome raffle. Events.
I suppose if you wandered in, nobody was very out.
The only other thing is the day that you guys are running to be, is that the 27th?
The election day,
Yeah.
the 8th. I mean, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the
April
8th.
8th. So that will be at Broad Meadow.
Well, it's wherever you're voting.
Fucking women,
Are you thinking-
They-
voters.
You asking
Yeah.
about the
Oh, the
League
League
of
of
Women
Women,
Voters.
yes, you're right.
Yes.
That-
That's-
So the 19th, the League of Women Voters is splitting their voter event, candidates nights.
Oh, really?
Into two this year because
Okay,
there's so
yeah.
many candidates. And the 19th, they're doing, first half is gonna be at Zoom, in which the library board and other smaller boards are gonna, well, we have to appear, Rob and I will have to appear along with the other candidates for library board and the Board of Health and who else?
One other, I don't
One other.
recall.
It's all Zoom that night. And then the 23rd, I think, is the big, 24th, is the candidates, in-person candidates night. It's big, the big guns.
Select board.
Select
School board.
board.
And
And
we're
then
invited to
planning
be
board.
there, but we won't be speaking.
We can be there and they're gonna introduce
Great.
us. I
Yeah.
guess, I think we have to go up and,
Okay,
but, so that's,
so we should
Thank you.
all pay attention to it. Thank you.
Yeah, I wasn't sure because I know when I had to do it, I didn't have to speak because we ran unopposed.
You
but
ran
guys
unopposed.
have people, and I just wanted to know so I could be down there
yeah, please
Screaming.
cheer.
cheering and stuff like that. Yeah, tell them, girl.
Thank you.
But you're not gonna be able
But
to
we're only
speak?
gonna be on Zoom on the 19th.
We could be speaking.
Speaking, we'll be
Yeah.
speaking on Zoom
Okay.
on the 19th.
Rob forwarded email contact legislators about support to the Freedom to Read Act. I think this is super important. Not sure if it's Tarski and Roush or both. 'Cause I don't know if we have different bills in the House.
I actually looked on both their websites today. Neither of them had anything on their websites about either the House side bill or the Senate side bill.
But we do have, like,
Yeah.
so we do
Can
have.
you tell us a
two
little
ones.
bit about that?
I'm just looking at the email that Rob forwarded, which was this morning, so, yeah, that was this morning. They want to remove a defense and prosecution that your library to give, speaking of children, giving materials to children that people think are not appropriate, right? You should have a defense if you're an employee of a library. And people have filed a petition to remove that language, so you do not have a defense at your library. And then separately, there is a freedom to read bill that has not been passed, that the MLA is supporting, and there's information email about it too. I'm only just looking at the house, so I can't summarize all of it, but contacting both Tarski and Roush to say we support the freedom to read and do not support this, taking away the defense would be some great local activism at a time when any activism is great, but we want to protect our rights in Massachusetts too.
Thank you for raising the awareness of that.
Yeah.
Okay, no further comments. Chair moves to adjourn. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Great. Any discussion before we adjourn? All right, moving to a roll call vote on adjournment. All those in favor say aye. Kay Cahill,
Aye.
Robert Pettit,
Aye.
Jay Fialkoff,
Aye.
Michael O'Neill,
Aye.
Megan Small,
I
Joshua Small,
Aye.
and the chair is aye. We are adjourned.